Welcome in. I am the CryptoBullGod, and in today's video we're going to discuss the holy crypto trinity comprised of Hbar, One, and Mana. I do feel that today's video in particular, I took a lot of time putting together today's analysis, and so whether you're a beginner or a veteran within the cryptocurrency space, I really feel like you'll have a level of appreciation for this video. I have not seen anything in the entire space that has approached price targets in this fashion. It's very common to go on Twitter and to find people shill targets without any backing, right? We all know that if we're active within the space. But I really feel that my background as an actuary and a lot of the analytical type of work I do, reasonability checks, I really feel like it has helped me in performing an analysis for cryptocurrencies, these three cryptocurrencies in particular, to try to arrive to as reasonable and as logical a price target for all three that I could. And so I would ask, if you appreciate the content, there is nothing you can do more for me that will help me and really show your appreciation for this content than by subscribing to the channel, taking 5 seconds and leaving a comment, liking the video, sharing it with others on Twitter, sharing it with others who aren't on Twitter. I really am genuinely, all kidding aside, all humor aside, I really am a passionate cryptocurrency investor, and I'm really aiming to help you out. So if you appreciate the content, please do that. You can find me on Twitter at CryptoBullGod. You can find me on Tradingview at CryptoBullGod. Of course, you can find me on YouTube at CryptoBullGod. And I also wanted to let you know that I do have an email, CryptoBullGod@gmail. So if you want to shoot me over any questions about really anything at all, I'd be happy to either address them personally in a response or get to them on a podcast. So with that being said, let's get into the video and kind of get to the meat and potatoes of what this video is going to be about. The first item that we're going to talk about is the meat and potatoes. We're going to get right into price targets for all three of these cryptocurrency projects. And we're going to go into great detail in terms of how I arrived to these targets and also why I deem these targets to be very logical. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to just very simply look at one chart for all three projects, and we're going to discuss logical areas that you should be scaling into today, whether you're invested in all three of these or whether you're not invested. And then the last thing that we're going to do at the end of this video is there is a special announcement from the CryptoBullGod, so you'll want to stick around for that. Don't leave too early. And the last thing I would say before we get started into this analysis, I oftentimes when I'm watching videos, I tend to multitask. If you multitask during this video, you're going to miss a lot of information. I would encourage you that if you have the time to sit in front of your computer or sit in front of your phone, whatever device or tablet. I'm behind the times. I don't have a tablet. Whatever. I would really encourage you that when you have the time to watch the video and pay attention to it, that's the time to watch this video. Don't do it if you're multitasking because you're going to miss too much. All right, so with that being said, let's get into things here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get right into the price projections as I had stated. The first thing I wanted to do when I was looking at all three of these cryptocurrency projects, you have to understand first off that besides Mana does have some price history from the prior cycle. Very little price history, but it does have price history. Hbar and One, they have no price history. And so what we as technical analysts like to do is we like to rely on things called Fibonacci Extensions, meaning when a cryptocurrency project breaks its all-time high, like take, for example, Ethereum. When Ethereum breaks its prior cycle all-time high, we like to draw these things into the charts called Fibonacci Extensions. And these Fibonacci Extensions tend to play out in many ways to aid a technical analyst to indicate potential tops we might see, okay? We can't do that in particular with Hbar and One, and I'd also argue we really can't do it with Mana. And so we really need to take a more creative approach in attempting to derive logical price targets that we might see this bull cycle. So the first thing I wanted to speak to were price multiples. I took a look at price multiples from the prior bull cycle. And what I did is I started with I took a look at certain cryptocurrency projects and I looked at their valuation on 1/1 of 2017, okay? Basically the year that those projects ran really hard. And then I took a look at how much growth was exhibited from 1/1/17 to cycle top. So cycle top would be approximately a year from 1/1/17 all the way up until December of 2017 or January, like the midpoint or the beginning of January of 2018. So roughly a year. So what was our price at 1/1/17, and let's just say 1/1/18 for simplicity, and how much did the price increase between those two dates? What I did is I used those historical multiples and to try to get an idea of what we might see in this cycle. So from 1/1/21 till roughly the end of the cycle this year. Now, you could argue with me, well, this cycle's playing out a little differently. It's accelerating a little faster. We might top sooner. So is 1/1/21 really the date you should be using? I think we're splitting hairs here. I had to make some sort of assumption, and I think this is very reasonable. So my starting date to apply these cycle multiples is 1/1/21, okay? What I've also assumed within these projections is I'm assuming a certain valuation for Bitcoin. I'm assuming altcoins top after Bitcoin's top. I'm also using prior cycle rank relativities, which in the prior video, I'll leave a link. I kind of explained that in the last video, how I came up with this. And I'm also indicating that the last cycle will be near, near altcoin cycle tops was used. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that when I was projecting forward ranking relativities, there is conservatism baked into there because I didn't actually use the exact tops in all of the altcoins. So there's a layer of conservatism built in here. So, and I'll kind of go through it once we get to that tab. But let's get into these multiples so that I can actually visually show you what's going on here. So again, this is all 2017. This is at the very start of 2017. 1/1/17, January 1st of 2017, that's when we experienced this really accelerated growth within the cryptocurrency market, and you saw projects performing price multiples that were just unfathomable to the common person who didn't know what was going on. So what I did here, if we look at the top 10 rankings here, I picked a few coins out. These are all price multiples here that you're looking at here. I excluded these here in this font here because I feel they were somewhat of an outlier. That's very common to do in statistics. You want to remove outliers. I took an average just of these three here and came up with a 143 multiple. So what we're saying is for the top 10 here that we're looking at, on average, if you remove outliers, you're looking at a price multiple from the cycle beginning on 1/1/17 to cycle top of roughly a 143x, okay? So, and to give you in dollar terms what that means is, if you looked at, Litecoin, for instance, Litecoin went from $4 at the beginning of the year up to $420, okay? It did a 105 multiple. All right. Now we start to look at some lower rankings here, and the reason we're looking at lower rankings is because the three projects we're looking at, Hbar, Mana, and One, they all began the year at a much lower market cap ranking. So what we want to do is we want to go back in time historically, and we want to evaluate for similar market cap rankings, what sort of price multiple did we see in the prior cycle? And we're going to assume that we're going to see something similar. The only thing I can do is I can rely on past data to make informed decisions about the future. I'm not a prognosticator, I'm not Nostradamus, but a base assumption is, look, this cycle, I'm assuming that the growth, the price multiples, they will be similar this cycle as the prior cycle. So it was difficult to find some of these, to be quite honest with you. This was a little bit more challenging than what you might assume or might expect. But I tried to pick out a broad range between things outside of the top 10 going up to market cap ranking 75. And so with that being said, I again removed outliers. You can see there's a few, for lack of a better term, a few turds in the space here that did a 32, 38, and 7 multiple here. We're going to remove that. We're also going to remove this guy, Neo, who did a 1462 multiple. That was pretty crazy. But if we look at these other ranges here, and even including the 700, we come up with a 500 multiple. But for the most part, we're ranging in between 3 to 500. So what I'm saying is, out of the top 10, it looks like from the prior cycle, it was very common to see a 3 to 500x from the start of the year to the end of the cycle. Okay, very large multiple. Again, let's just put that into perspective. What does that mean? Well, if we look at XLM, what we're saying is we went from 0.2 cents, not even a cent, from 0.02 cents up to $1.05. You know, we went in SIA coin, I think this is, we went from a 0.00023 valuation up to 7 cents. That was a 313 multiple, okay? So these things tend to accelerate because we're so early. We're so early into cryptocurrency that the market is very young, okay? So the price multiples you're getting here, you're not going to see this shit in the stock market, okay? But it's also very volatile. These are tops. These aren't, these valuations, these price multiples, these aren't sustained price movements. The prices aren't going there and staying there, okay? They're just cycle tops. So then what I did was, if we scroll down here, let's look at the USD price. What I did was, even though all 3 of these projects are outside of the top 10, for purposes of conservatism, I said, all right, well, let's first, as a base assumption, let's assume that all these valuations on 1/1/21 will at least multiply by the valuation multiples that we saw within the top 10. It should intuitively make sense that the smaller the market cap is, the more opportunity, because it's less liquid, okay? There's less liquidity in those. It's a smaller valuation. It's easier to move the price. The smaller the market capitalization is, the greater your likelihood or opportunity to potentially see a higher price multiple. That's why up here, when you see Ethereum and you see Dash and you see Litecoin and even XRP, these had higher market capitalizations, and so their price multiples were on average less than what you saw out of the top 10, because down here you have smaller market capitalizations. It's easier to move the price, and so that's why you're seeing higher price multiples. XRP was somewhat of an outlier, so that's why I excluded it from the average. But again, what I'm doing is, for a base assumption, I'm saying, all right, so we're well outside the top 10. You'll see below here, these were the market cap rankings at the beginning of the year. I mean, we were all the way from 77 to 177. So I'm saying, look, as a base assumption, we're going to do a 143x, okay? Then what I did for these 3 here, as I said, if you'll recall, outside of the top 10, for where I looked at market cap rankings and price multiples, if you remove outliers, we basically saw between, excluding the 700, we saw between a 3 to 500, right? So I looked at 3, 4, and 500 for all 3 of these, okay? And based on those price multiples, I came up with USD price valuations, and I also came up with market capitalizations for these as well, which is very important. Now, you'll see off to the right here, I did this too quickly before the video. This is a 750, and this is a 750. And this is a 1,000, okay? So what I did here, attempting to get this video together as quickly as I could. Again, I put a lot of time into putting this together. So what I did here in particular for one is, and I'll discuss why, I'm considering the possibility that one really could end up pulling a 1,000x from its valuation on 1/1/21. So in some of these targets that I'm coming up with, this is the only one of the 3 Holy Crypto Trinity tokens here, one. It's the only one where I'm considering it could fall outside the bounds of a 500x. And so I listed out what the USD prices are and what the market capitalization values are for them, for those valuations for one. Now, the reason I'm saying that, the reason I feel that there is a reasonable likelihood that one could actually pull 1000x, as high as 1000x, is really twofold. Okay, first off, that's really threefold. First off, you'll see that it had the lowest market cap ranking. It was all the way at 177, meaning it was very illiquid to begin with, and it was easier to move the price. And not only that, but it jumped from 177 to 55 and had the highest growth rate. I have growth rates here indicated in market capitalization. So at the beginning of the year, one of all the cryptocurrencies in the entire market had a 177 rank. It jumped all the way to 55. Okay, you can see that we had significant growths for Hbar and Mana, but none of them increased at the level that one saw. And I understand that some of that is driven by the low liquidity within the project, but there's no doubt that, you know, fundamentally, if you study the project and the narrative behind it, and you see some of the people who are backing it, and you also look at the chart and the growth that it's had within market cap rankings, I think this one has a lot of potential to shock everyone and exhibit the greatest growth within January, from the beginning of January to the end of the cycle top. Something to keep in mind here before we kind of put all this into context and reasonability check it is, I can't stress enough that all of these will be cycle tops, okay? These aren't sustained price movements. And so having an idea of where, let's look at Hbar for a moment. If Hbar, let's say, peaked at $4.58, okay? And as we move along, you know, we gather more data and we feel more confident that one of these four targets will be hit, right? It's important to have an exit strategy and scale out of your investment. You don't want to perfectly wait for a certain dollar amount. That's lunacy. That's moronic. You don't want to do that. You want to have conservative targets leading up to what your ultimate target is and kind of scale out on the way up and perhaps leave a small amount to just let it run and sell out at a further point. But these things will go up very fast and they will come down very fast. Once we enter a bear cycle, don't let anyone kid you. There is no single project that once we go from a bull cycle to a bear cycle that will be able to withstand that. Everything will correct massively once we hit a euphoric top. Okay, things will correct 90-95% or more. Think about that. Okay, so I'm saying that if you have something that goes up to from a penny to $1, that thing's coming down to probably 5 cents by the end of the bear cycle. So it's important, if you want to turn paper gains into real gains, you have to have logic and know how to scale out and know ahead of time. Now, what I want to do with these USD valuations and these market cap valuations is I want to translate this to what I see realistically for all three. For all three, and I'll explain why once we get into the market cap rankings, I have specifically honed in on somewhere between a 143x and a 300x for both Hbar and Mana. So that would put Hbar between, let's just say $4.50 to almost $10, right in between there. Mana would see, roughly $11, all the way up maybe as high as $24. What I'm really targeting here, I understand there's certain psychological levels. $1 is a psychological level. I think it's going to blow past $1. Because again, I think the more important question you need to ask yourself when you're looking at these targets is people get fixated. They get so fixated on USD values. You really need to ask yourself, what will the market capitalization be? So for example, when someone says that, I just saw this on Twitter today, that Bitcoin may go as high as $450,000. That's asinine. That's not going to happen. That's the probability. There's a probability for everything, but the probability of that is so slim. That's a ridiculous statement that we're going to go to $450,000 this year. That puts it at roughly a $9 trillion market cap. It's not happening this year. In the future, could it hit that valuation? Yes, but that's just it's just lunacy and stupidity. And these are the people that have a lot of followers on Twitter because they promote hype and people gravitate towards what they want. You know, a $1,000 XRP and a $500,000 Bitcoin. You have to keep things realistic. So it's important. It's important to look at the market capitalization and ask yourself what is realistic here. And so with one, what I'm saying is based on, again, the growth that it's seen within the market cap rankings, it's had the highest growth rate exhibited here of any of the three holy crypto Trinity tokens. And I think where these valuations will land it within all of the cryptocurrency market cap rankings is very reasonable. So I think that one's going to see somewhere between a 500 to 1,000x, okay? And, sorry, this was probably confusing, so let me quickly correct this so nobody's, because I had this, again, I don't have anybody proof-working my stuff here, right? And I came into this video pretty quick to try to get it out. So, again, I think that I think there's a real possibility that you could have a valuation between 20 to 40 billion for one, which would indicate that it's a 500 to 1,000x from the USD price beginning on 1/1/21. It was at like half a cent. I mean now it's it's like 16 cents right now. So it's already to that point. I should real quick before we point to the chart. 143x. We've already we've hit over a third of that valuation already. So. And the true alt season hasn't even started. So, yeah, I think it's very possible. So let's go to the market cap. So this is something that I showed you in the prior video, but I expanded it out and I got more granular with the market cap rankings. Again, see the other video for an explanation. But again, when I watched that video, I felt like maybe I didn't do a great job explaining it. So let me just very quickly paraphrase what this is showing. I essentially, as a starting point, $4 trillion, which puts Bitcoin at roughly $200,000. I'm saying at the point that Bitcoin is roughly $200,000, we're going to see the altcoins top out at these valuations. And the way I got these valuations is I used prior cycle tops for the altcoins with conservatism. I didn't actually use the true tops. There's some conservatism built in there. I used the same relativities between the rankings. So, for example, what is the valuation of market cap ranking 4 look in relation to 3? And how does 5 look into relation to 4? I use those same relativities. Then I also grew the relativities because they all follow one another. Bitcoin's the leader to tell us how the market's going to look overall. Okay, I scaled all of those linearly by the same amount to reflect the fact that I have a base assumption that the altcoin dominance will be larger this cycle than the last cycle. Meaning, once we top, altcoins will grab more share of the overall market than they did prior cycle. I think that's what we're going to see. And I hit on that in the prior videos, so check it out if you haven't seen it. So these are the valuations we came out at. Now, based on what I pointed out here, let's see if what I'm telling you is reasonable in relation to where these projects would fit within the overall cryptocurrency market rankings. So again, assuming all of these rankings make sense, again, you can pause the video, you can copy these down, you can kind of fiddle with the numbers and do the same sort of thing for yourself if you don't agree with me. But let's focus on Hbar. Well, if Hbar is hitting the minimum target that I see, which was a 143x, again, if we go back here, a 143x puts it at $4.50. That would imply, look what it's implying. It's implying it would have a $35 billion roughly market cap, and it would be sitting at market cap rank 45. Well, right now it's sitting at market cap roughly 42 or 43. It also peaked during the year at 35. So that is very reasonable. The higher valuations that I have, if we come back here, it's putting it at roughly a 300x, which is roughly $9 to $10. That puts it, sorry, I keep jumping back and forth. That puts it at roughly a $74 billion market cap. That would imply that Hbar would jump all the way up in between 30 to 25. That's what that's implying. I think that's very reasonable. In fact, I actually felt based on the growth that I've been seeing with an H-bar, that we would see it somewhere in between 20 to 30. I think that's very reasonable. And again, keep in mind, H-bar started the year at 77. It already hit 35. So to jump here and say, assuming these valuations are correct, to say it could fall somewhere in between 25 to 30 is very reasonable. Let's jump to the next one. Let's jump to Mana. Mana, what we're saying is a base assumption, which is a 143 multiple from the start of the year. If we look at that valuation, it puts it at roughly $18 billion and $11.5 or $11. That puts it actually just outside of market cap ranking 65. This one didn't fit as nicely, to be honest with you, as I had hoped when I was looking at this. If we look at the reasonability of that ranking, currently I think it's sitting at 65 or 68. We jumped, again, I changed some of these, and I did not have this flow through, sorry. If you look at the fact that Mana at the beginning of the year jumped from 104 to 58, and we're saying, well, we can at least get to in between 65 to 70 to get us to that 18 billion roughly market, that's a very reasonable estimate, okay? If we jump back here and we look at a more aggressive growth target that would be a 300x, sits at around $24. Again, let's not get lost in the fact that Mana right now is a $1 cryptocurrency and it's going all the way to $24. Let's look at what the market capitalization is and what I'm projecting for all of the cryptocurrency market in terms of market capitalization. If you think the entire cryptocurrency market is going to trillions and trillions of dollars, these valuations are not insane. Go back to the prior bull cycle. And again, I pointed it out here. Look at some of these valuations and how much they increased from the start of the year to the end of the cycle top. We have not entered a euphoric stage where things go ballistic. Just keep that in mind. If you haven't been here, again, I've been studying this market for 3.5 years. So I have a pretty good feel for it. So again, $24 price target. But the more important thing is, the question is a $38 billion market cap, is that reasonable? So we come here and we say, well, that would be like Mana jumping somewhere in between 40 to 45. I don't think that's unrealistic, given the fact that we already hit a market cap ranking of 58. Okay, so the higher multiple takes it right in between 40 to 45. I don't think that's unreasonable. So my feel for Mana, if I had to take a gut feel at this point, it's going to be somewhere in between here. You know, maybe we hit $15. I think H-bar, I think anything between $4 to $10 is very reasonable. I do. Now let's get to one. This is a little crazy. One is the one where I had said, one is the one. One is where I had said we could see between a 500 to 1,000x multiple. Now that puts it at a dollar range between 2 to 4, okay? And the valuation, the market cap valuation, which is the more important point, that's between 20 to 40 billion dollars. And let's see where that falls. For the base assumption here, I'm assuming, I believe this is a 500 multiple. Yeah, 500 multiple at $2. That would put us at a market cap ranking of 65. Keep in mind, if you're wondering if that's reasonable, I think right now we're actually sitting right around there. I mean, 1 and 8 Mana are right around the same market cap ranking, so we're right around 65. This thing went from 177 to 55. So again, assuming these valuations are reasonable, this valuation is very reasonable, going to $2. This whole range here between 43 and 31, this is what we're looking at here for this 750 to 1,000 multiple. Gets us between $3 to $4. Okay, so $3 to $4. Where does that put us for the 750 to 1,000 multiple? It sits us somewhere in here, which is in between the 40 to 50 market cap ranking. So if one can achieve, again, it's already hit a market cap ranking of 55. So if it can make further progress and it can land ultimately somewhere between 40 and 50, yeah, you're looking at a $3 to $4 one token, which is an extremely high growth rate from current price levels of 16 cents. So what did I do from a reasonability check perspective to further get myself comfortable that some of these valuations made sense? Well, the other thing I did was I took a look at a few other projects. So this is almost like a bonus. You get to take a look and see what might be reasonable for some other projects. So what I did, it's actually probably the easiest thing to do here. Hope everybody's awake. Are you having fun? Are you following everything? Drop a comment. Let me know if this is all interesting stuff. All right. So, take a sip of my 365 Whole Foods sparkling lime water, especially made for the CryptoBullGod. I try to be funny. All right, so here are my reasonability checks. For XRP, XRP's disappointed me this year, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to go as high as I had originally anticipated. I think XRP will ultimately drop in market cap ranking by the end of the cycle a little bit. It'll land in between a market cap ranking of 8 to 10. If you look at the price target for that, based on the, again, everything here is based on the market cap rankings. I'm taking a look at projections here for these projects and comparing them to the market caps here to see if they're reasonable. That puts it between 6 to 8. If we get as high as 8, we have a general rule, just real quick, general rule that I learned years ago that I've seen play out in trading a lot of times. There's a general rule, it's the rule of sevens. If something hits $7, you're going to see $10 more than likely. If it hits 70 cents, you're more than likely going to see $1. If it hits $70, you're more than likely going to see $100, okay? So 6 to 8 is reasonable. If we hit that range, you know, you could see this thing going as high as 10. So that's to me feels very reasonable. You can see my comment here. XLM. I believe it's going to ultimately, right now it's at 15. I think ultimately its market cap ranking will be between 13 to 18 by the end of the bull cycle. So that puts it at around $5 to $9, very reasonable. I am the only person that has come out and said this, by the way, that I've seen. And surrounding XRP and XLM, I said, hey guys, you know, look behind me. Look, I have this beautiful canvas painting. Clearly I'm a huge advocate for XRP, okay, and Ripple and all the things that they're doing. But I'm being honest with my audience, I always will be, that I don't see it in the charts this year to hit my original price targets, maybe next cycle. And what I've said, diversify between these two, diversify. And I think their ultimate USD prices will be very similar. It's not market cap. I'm not saying market cap. Again, market capitalization and USD values are two totally different things. I'm just saying the dollar value for both tokens to cycle top, I think they're going to be very similar. So it's another reasonability check that these are coming out pretty similar. Link. I think Link's ultimately going to be somewhere around where XRP's at in the 8 to 10 ranking. That would put it somewhere between $5 to $770, $500 to $770. $770 seems way too high to me. I would think something towards 500 or even 400 seems more likely. So this one is a little aggressive and sort of raised an eyebrow for me, but still somewhat reasonable. On the lower end, it's still reasonable, I should say. Dash was, when I drew out this, where I believed it would be, it's sitting somewhere in the 40s. I think ultimately Dash will land in between the 40 to 50 ranking. That puts it right in here between a 43 to 31 billion. Now, the nice thing that I like to see with Dash is because it has a lot of prior price history, I had looked at those things called Fib extensions that I had spoken about earlier, and I saw, you know, I looked at it and said, I think Dash, you know, on the low end will top out at around, I think it was 25 or 2,600, could go as high as like 4,200. So here, you know, landing in between this range would put it at 3,000 to 4,200, so that's very reasonable. So again, based on these checks I did here, it further got me comfortable that the basis here, the basis to land us here, the basis to comment on if these market capitalizations are appropriate and to look at these valuations and say if they're appropriate, the basis for all that, these price multiples, everything, seems very reasonable. So as much information as I can go on, I do feel like everything is hanging together, and I've come up with a very logical analysis. Again, I don't think you're going to find this anywhere on YouTube or Twitter that anybody's gone through this much rigor to try to come up with some reasonable price targets. So I really hope you appreciate it. Let's get into the second part here of the video, which is discussing price ranges. I like to look at a 12-hour, to scale in at. I like to look at a 12-hour chart. And what I want to focus on here is the golden zone. And you can see we've already hit in here. But for Hbar, we're looking at Hbar first. I'm signaling an area anywhere between 30 cents as low as 24.5 cents. That is the golden pocket. So if you're not an Hbar or you're looking to scale in, honestly, the way I would approach it, you can either cut your, for all these, what I would do is you always want to scale in. So you can either cut your scale in half or cut it in thirds. Right now, I would put part in right now. I wouldn't even wait for the golden pocket. I would put some in right now. And then I would wait to put your other half or your other 2/3 once we enter this golden pocket. The other thing I want to point out with Hbar here, we could see a double bottom. That was one thing I wanted to point out. You can see an area of support here at 28 cents. Could see a double bottom. But the other thing is, since we made this move up, do you see anything interesting on the chart to suggest a golden buying opportunity? Just look at the chart for a second. Okay, when we started making a massive move up here, look where we came down to. The 50 SMA on a 12-hour chart. We rode it, almost got down. Oop, look, we got a little below, but hovered around this 50 SMA, and boom, exploded up. And now look what we've just done. We've come down to the 50 SMA, a little bit below it. Wouldn't surprise to see some consolidation. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see some consolidation right in here, and then blast right on up past $1, and maybe go up to $1.20, $1.50, somewhere up in there. So this is an awesome buying opportunity. I would be buying right now and also wait to see if we enter into that golden zone. This thing's been on a tear. I've entered, again, golden zone here based on prior areas of resistance and support where I would be looking to scale in. I scaled in some more. I tweeted about it. I would be scaling in anywhere, it looks like 17 cents all the way down to just under 13 cents, or excuse me, just under 14 cents, right near this 50 SMA. Again, it's the same sort of strength we saw in Hbar, we're seeing in one, where when we started really accelerating in price movement, look what happened, 50 SMA, 50 SMA. All these touches on this purple line, which are the 50 SMA, 50 SMA, 50 SMA, and guess what? We're probably going to come down and entertain this level right around 14 cents or 13.5 cents. So I would be a buyer here. Mana. This thing has shown a lot of support. I had a golden pocket on here that I tweeted about over a week ago. When we were up here, I started tweeting about this golden pocket, and we filled it beautifully. So hopefully, if you were looking to get in, I hope you considered my advice or suggestions and scaled in. This is where I would be buying in. I bought a little bit when we got down here. Actually sold some up here and then re-entered. So I sold some of my position, a very small amount. I don't get too cute with the market in a cycle like this, but a very small amount I sold, and then I used those funds to buy in at a lower price to give me some more mana tokens. But this is the zone I would be looking for. I think this one is closer to breaking out to the upside than the other three. I'd be buying in here. I would buy right here and then scale if we get, any lower than this golden zone, which is looks like 91 cents all the way down to 78. That's where I would be scaling in. So with that being said, again, I hope you really appreciated the content. There is a special message that I wanted to leave you with, but before that, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity for me to help educate you. I really felt, or hope that you felt, that this was very informative. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Please share it with others in the community. Again, I hope you chose not to multitask during this and pay particular attention. Maybe you need to rewind a couple segments. Hopefully I didn't go too fast, but this video is already super long. So with that being said, until next time, spread awareness and carry the education forward. And we're going to leave on a very, very special note.
Each barbarians, one, and manomaniacs unite into the holy crypto Trinity. This day we shall take the entire cryptocurrency market by storm. We shall claim our true place within the market cap rankings to Valhalla and higher.